Hi there everyone, my name is Jenna Calhoun and today I'm going to talk to you about the communication accommodation theory out of chapter 9. The communication accommodation theory is an interpersonal communication perspective that examines processes by which individuals adapt their communication to others or accommodate them, and the consequences of accommodation on subsequent communication. The theory is guided by the insight that communicators sometimes adapt their behavior towards others when a speaker slows down when talking to an elderly person or raises their voice when speaking to an elderly person, are just a couple examples of that. I've experienced communication accommodation theory in my work life at Red Robin as a waitress because I'm constantly communicating with customers, fellow employees, and my bosses. And living in San Antonio and working in San Antonio provides a very diverse population, and that also brings different languages such as Spanish that I encounter on a daily basis. And so when I have a customer that does not speak fluent English, the communication between the customer and I can become difficult, and I try to successfully find ways that I can communicate with them to ensure I order them the right food and drinks that they're desiring. I take part in communication accommodation theory when I try to speak the little Spanish that I do know to make them more comfortable and enjoy their experience. And I've noticed that I also smile a lot more, not that I don't with English speaking customers, but just more facial expressions, and I point to pictures on the menu a lot more frequently than I do with English speaking customers to again ensure that I'm getting them exactly what they want and they know what they're getting. So although these situations can feel awkward for me because I'm not comfortable with the Spanish that I do speak, and the fact that it can be difficult to navigate these situations with language barriers, I do try my best to apply the accommodation theory and accommodate them and make sure that they have the best experience possible. So now that I've discussed the experience, I'll make some inferences. So I think the communication accommodation theory is a very useful and practical theory that we can see every day in our lives, whether it's a language barrier like at my work or hearing someone accommodate an elderly person talking louder or slower than normal because they think they can't hear very well. Also, I think communication accommodation theory is really interesting because I don't think that most people actively think about how they accommodate people when they speak to them, even though they happen to do it quite a bit. And through the experience, I learned how often I accommodate people in my everyday life, not just at work, but in different situations. And emotions played a part in this whole situation because I get nervous and uncomfortable and worried that I won't be able to accommodate them and provide them with a great experience just with that uncertainty that comes with language barriers or just accommodating people. And I want to make sure I do that in the right way. So now that I've made a couple inferences, I'll talk about how these inferences can be transferred to other situations. So another situation would be when people talk to babies, and it's very common for people to baby talk to accommodate the baby for the lack of language skills that they have. And I've seen this many times where people don't actually say words, but they say goo goo, gaga, much like when people accommodate elderly people. It's almost a natural reaction to accommodate babies because we're aware that they can't speak yet. And so we don't speak full sentences, but rather accommodate and just make noises like they do. I would use this knowledge of the theory and inferences that I've made to be more aware if I'm accommodating someone or if the situation, it could come in handy to accommodate someone. And I would also use this information to make sure I don't over-accommodate and offend people. I think this entire theory can be generalized to other parts of life because we're constantly communicating with others and adjusting our communication behaviors to the given situations. And communication accommodation theory can be seen in many different ways in our daily lives. So in conclusion, the information that the text provided about the communication accommodation theory informed us how we can be more aware and conscious communicators. We can also use this information to avoid situations that may be offensive and know how to properly deal with situations that may need accommodation. And now that we have this knowledge, we can act accordingly and respect everyone in these kinds of situations. Also, now that we are more educated on the subject, we can be more accommodating to others when it's necessary and do that all in the correct way that would not disrespect people and just effectively communicate to people. As stated by Tony Robbins, to effectively communicate, we must realize that we are all different in the way we perceive the world and use this understanding as a guide to our communication with others. So I hope you guys learned a little bit about communication accommodation theory, and have a good day. Thanks. Bye.